When Caitlin Clark comes to your city, you buy a ticket. And that's how New York City felt tonight, selling out the Barclays Center in Brooklyn, 17,401 in attendance, and they didn't care that the Fever have had a poor start to the season, starting 2-9, to the Liberty 7-2. They didn't care that the Liberty were blowing out the Fever tonight. They stayed to the very end. At the start of the game, the Liberty pulled out to an early lead, 11-2, and they have this consistent pattern now of getting all their starters involved early, and that's what they did, getting each of their starters, all 5 of them, on the board within those 11 points. And Betnijah Laney-Hamilton had the hardest assignment tonight, guarding Caitlin Clark while trying to pull her weight on the offensive end. She certainly did that, and for her defensive matchup with Caitlin Clark, she talked about it being almost like a chess match, trying to figure out what Caitlin Clark was going to do, and she spoke about it after the game.
I think it's more of a chess match. Each player that I defend is different, so preparing for them, learning tendencies, and then just no matter who I'm guarding, just trying to be as aggressive and disruptive as possible. So I think it's more of a chess match, but it does, because I'm always having to do it, I'm kind of always ready and prepared for that moment.
Betnijah used a lot of pressure to wear down and slow down Caitlin Clark throughout the game, and it worked. And the Fever got off to a really poor start, shooting 2 for 11 from the field. And at the point in the game, then this was before the end of the first quarter, where it was 26-9 Liberty, it already felt like the game was out of reach for the Fever. They just weren't going to come back. And even though in the second quarter, Brianna Stewart and Kayla Thornton, they both got into foul trouble for the New York Liberty with 2 fouls each, they were still able to keep the Fever at bay. And Kelsey Mitchell tried to lead the Fever on a comeback, tried to put the team on her back. At one point in the second quarter, she had 12 points on 5 for 7 shooting from the field, 2 for 2 from 3. But unfortunately, she was really the only one leading that comeback, and it really wasn't enough to make much of a dent in that Liberty lead. And there was a second wave of the comeback early on, immediately at the start of the second half, where the Fever were able to cut the New York Liberty lead to 57-45. But Sandy Brandella called a timeout, and then coming out of the timeout, the Liberty went on a 7-0 run to increase the lead back to 19, and that comeback was quickly stomped out. And actually, Coach Sandy Brandella and Betnijah Laney-Hamilton, they spoke about this after the game, and they had a little laugh about Sandy's comments that maybe the team got a little bit bored with the lead.
Your coach just mentioned that at times when you guys have a sizable lead that it's possible that boredom might set in. Would you agree with that assessment, and particularly in the third quarter, what allowed you to snap out of that, whatever complacency that might have set in and extend that?
I mean, I wouldn't necessarily say boredom, but I do think that we tend to okay, we have this lead, so we tend to get a little bit laxed. And then, we talk about it and then we have to snap out of it. So it's, I think it's more of that than boredom per se. I think we get a little lax because okay, we got this lead, let me just take a breath, and then, also understand that this is the WNBA and anything can happen at any time. We're going against talented players every night. And so, that's something that we have to clean up. We have to do it for 40 minutes. So now that we know that, or it's been brought, we have a lot of attention to it. I'm sure that's something that we'll focus on and we'll clean up.
In the fourth quarter, the Liberty completely ran away with the game, and it just turned into disaster for the Fever, not only because of that, but also because of injuries. Caitlin Clark walked out of the game in the fourth quarter, holding her face, holding her ear, and that's how it seemed from afar. We couldn't really tell what exactly was going on, but I found out through reports after the game that it was indeed an ear injury. When she exited, she was only 1 for 10 from the field, 1 for 7 from 3. And then minutes later, Aliyah Boston, another former number 1 pick for the Indiana Fever, she exited the game with a left ankle injury. And, the efforts by Kelsey Mitchell with 21 points for the Fever tonight, and Alyssa Smith with 17, it just was nowhere near enough, unfortunately, for the Fever against this Liberty team that made it all the way to the championship series last year, of course, losing to the Las Vegas Aces in the final. And what's interesting about this game is the Fever actually shot really well from 3 in the first half. They shot 6 of 16 from 3, and then that was just nowhere to be found in the second half. After the first half, they were actually shooting better than the Liberty from 3, but they only shot 1 for 12 from 3 in the second half. And the Fever got outplayed, in every statistical category except for one. And it wasn't by much that they won that turnover battle, because they only had one less turnover than the Fever. And on the other side, the Liberty had 5 players in double figures, eventually walked out with the win 104-68. I had a great time at this game. I was very excited to watch Caitlin Clark, and I hope to see you guys in the next report. Hopefully I'll be reporting another game soon. With WFUV Sports, I'm Will James.